Rugby World Cup 2019 review of Pool D. Pool D, the pool where everybody got a win. So every fan had their chance to celebrate from Pool D. It was kind of like Pool A in that it wasn't as straightforward as things went. I mean, the finishing standings with Wales, Australia, Fiji, Georgia, and Uruguay kind of still fit the script, but the method they got there was perhaps a little out of the ordinary. Maybe not for the top two teams, but for everybody else, they were certainly keeping things interesting. And some of the games themselves, were kind of topsy-turvy. So I feel like this is one of the more interesting pools. But again, if you're going to give it to one pool, you probably give it to Pool A. But still, so we'll work our way up from the bottom, give the teams a wee rating to see how they did. Did they meet expectations, or did they kind of fall below par? If you start with Uruguay, that's definitely a team who exceeded expectations pretty well. Even though they finished bottom of the pool on 4 points, they open up their account with a stunning 30 points to 27 win over Fiji. I don't think many of us saw that one coming. And kudos to the Uruguay players and the coaching staff for getting that one. Fiji were on a short turnaround. They played on the 21st and then had to back up on the 25th, so they shifted up their team a lot. But that being said, plenty of other teams had short turnarounds as well and didn't quite suffer the same way Fiji seemed to in that game. So it was outstanding stuff from Uruguay, kind of a triumph for them. The rest of the games they played, they did lose them, but the next one against Georgia, 33-7, that was Uruguay's turn to have the short turnaround, playing on the 25th and then on the 29th, so they weren't able to back it up against Georgia, so 33-7 is a pretty comfortable win for them, really. So Uruguay ideally would like to get a bit closer, but they couldn't back it up. So that's probably the most disappointing result for them. The next one against Australia, 45-10, I mean, that's probably what you expect when you see Australia against Uruguay. So no disgrace in that defeat. And then the final one against Wales, 35-13. And that one was close at half-time. So you'd still give a moral victory to Uruguay there, despite the fact that over 80 minutes Wales were far the better team. So 35-13. Yeah, I think that's a solid result for Uruguay, even though Wales got what they needed out of that game as well. So you give Uruguay a definite solid pass, despite the fact that they did finish bottom. Georgia, well, they finished with the same record as Uruguay. They only got the one win, and that was over Uruguay. So they started 43-14 loss to Wales. Their scrum wasn't able to get on top in that one, which was probably a bit disappointing. So you'd hope that Georgia, with all the talk about them wanting to get into the Six Nations, you'd hope it would be a bit closer than that, but it wasn't. Their next game against Uruguay, as I said, was comfortable, 33 points to 7. So in what could have been a banana skin game as it was for the Fijians, the Georgians were really able to knuckle down, and they were able to get a bit of dominance up front. Against Fiji, 45 points to 10. That one was kind of a disaster for Georgia, because that one was really the battle at least to see who could get into third. And Georgia didn't dominate in the front, up front, and they kind of were dominated. So that was their one area of strength. It was always going to be the Fijian backs up against the Georgian forwards, but overall it was just all Fiji. And then the final game, 27-8 against Australia, is kind of more respectable. That's what you'd like to see from Georgia, kind of getting close to these Tier 1 nations. So you'd probably give Georgia a pass for that one. But overall, I think you'd say Georgia were a bit disappointing in this one. Their only victory coming against Uruguay. They got smashed by Fiji, didn't get close to Wales. So overall, it wasn't the best time for them. You wouldn't look at those results and go, that's a team that should definitely be in the Six Nations. So, yeah, I mean, we all want Georgian rugby to develop. I think there's a lot of warm feelings for Georgia. But in terms of that tournament, it wasn't the best. For Fiji, now, they were tipped to perhaps upset Australia prior to the World Cup by a lot of people. But the results, 39-21 against Australia, kind of good first half. But Australia too good in the second, so it was a chance for them, but one that they didn't take. The second result against Uruguay, 30 points to 27, as I said, that was an absolute disaster. That pretty much ruined any chances of going through to the next phase, even with a win over Wales, which they didn't get either. 45-10 against Georgia was their best game by far. They really cut loose and showed us what they could do. And then the final game against Wales, 29-17. Again, it's respectable, it's close. They got a lead against Wales, but kind of like against Australia, they weren't able to hold it out. So, not Fiji's day. They've certainly got the squad to get better results than that. It's a pity they weren't able to push in the end. They finished on 7 points, so comfortably behind the top 2 teams. So, you'd probably say Fiji fail in terms of a grade at the World Cup because, as I said, it wasn't an expectation to necessarily get into the knockout stages, but that was a goal to at least challenge, and they didn't manage that either. Australia finished second on 16 points. It was always between them and Wales in terms of the 2 big favourites. They beat Fiji, like I said, in that first game 39-21. Game of 2 halves, but Australia over the course of the game with their set piece were able to really get on top. So, yeah, good. I think okay. 39-21 is no small task against, as I said, with all the pressure that was on them in this game to get a win. They managed to get it in the end. Against Wales, 25-29, close, but not quite enough. But I think that's maybe a bit closer than people gave Australia credit for, because Wales, prior to the tournament, really looked up to as one of the form teams. Australia written off by some, but at World Cup times, I don't think you can write off the Wallabies, so they weren't that far away. The next one was them against Uruguay, 45-10. Did the job that the Fijians probably should have done, but again, short turnaround didn't help. And then the final one, 27-8 against Georgia. Again, it's not that pretty, but it's job done. So despite the fact they came second, you'd probably say Australia, a solid pass without being spectacular. They got the jobs done that they needed to in this Rugby World Cup. And Wales, top of the pool. Not everyone got a chance to finish out their games, but Wales finished with the best record of everybody, because England, New Zealand didn't get a chance to potentially get a similar record as Wales with the cancelled games. They got a same points total as Japan in Pool A, but in terms of points difference, Wales finished the best of the lot. So first win over Georgia, 43-14. Top stuff. As I said, you'd look at Georgia to get a bit closer, but not against this Welsh side. 29-25. Wales historically have got a poor record against Australia. They won the last one close, and they've won this one close as well. So it seems like they're really turning that corner on what's traditionally been a bit of a hard game, but they managed to get the win. 29-17 over Fiji. Very good, without being spectacularly good comeback against a team which had a lead against them, and then 35-13, short turnaround, much changed. Again, second half, they brought the goods. So Wales weren't obliterating teams, but they were getting the job done. So you're not going to give them a gold star A+, but you certainly give them a very solid pass. You finish top of the pool, you've given yourself every chance. And as I've said in many videos before, if you look back at the All Blacks in the 2015 World Cup, they weren't obliterating teams in the pool stages either. And people were doubting, are they going to have the goods? Well, it's all about the knockout stages. Nobody remembers those pool stages now. So Wales go through top. They are going to play France. They will go in as favourites for that one. Wallabies finish second. Going to play England. That should be a ding-dong battle, but they will go as underdogs for that game. So, yeah, that's Pool D. As I said, it was a bit of a roller coaster. Some of the games in themselves kind of got flipped on their head at half time. Upsets with Uruguay getting the one over Fiji. All teams kind of had at least one good game, and some games where they perhaps either weren't good for the whole game in terms of some of these bottom three teams, or maybe not good for a particular half in the top two. But yeah, that's the way it finished. You guys let me know your thoughts on Pool D. How do you think these guys are going to go against these other two quarterfinalists? How do you think these teams that didn't make it through finish? Do you think Georgia are that far away? Do you think Uruguay are perhaps certainly better than I gave them credit for going into the tournament? Disappointment of Fiji. What are you guys' thoughts on that? But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts in general, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.